Patriots Daily is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
This is the big one. This was maybe the most exciting part of the entire interview, where Gerard Mayo was asked, you guys have a lot of assets in free agency. What are you going to do? He's like, we're bringing in talent 1,000%. We have a lot of cap space and cash. He said, we are going to burn some cash because Robert Kraft, I know he gets a lot of flack and people like to act like he's cheap. I don't know how much evidence there is to support that Kraft is cheap. I think there's plenty of evidence to support that Bill just doesn't like paying certain players or, what have you, paying certain positions. But we saw literally just in 2021, they spent a ton of money. And with Kraft being full on board that we need to get this team back on track, money is clearly not going to be any object. And not only do they have the cash, they also have the cap space where it's not like they're going to have to bend over backwards to make it work and all those things. They're going to have a lot of space to work with. So I thought this would be fun. Our buddy, friend of the show, Brad Spielberger of PFF, always does an amazing job where they have this chart. We're going to pull it up right now where he has all the list of team needs, all these things for the free agency, contract predictions, where I think last season, I'm pretty sure he batted 80% at least. It was crazy. Almost every single deal he was spot on. So we're going to pull this up, go through the list, and then make our own little, free agency board and see who we think would be interesting for the Patriots to get because, hey, they're going to be burning cash, right. So let's have some fun. So you did say Kirk Cousins is off your board, yes?
Yeah, I just, 37 coming off an Achilles, he'll probably, I think Atlanta and Bill Belichick should be all over him, get him in for a year or two, win some games, break the record, what have you, but I'm more of on a longer rebuild for the Patriots, so I just don't see them shelling out for Kirk Cousins this year. It doesn't move the needle for me. It doesn't make much sense.
I agree. Kirk Cousins said, he has to see how things play out, but he wouldn't turn down the opportunity to play with the best coach of all time.
Yeah,
so there's a little traction there. That would actually be really fun. I'd love to see him over there.
That's the one that makes the most sense. I mean, and I know we're going to keep going in a second, but Kirk with, Bijan and Drake London and Kyle Pitts, that offense would turn around really fast, and that would turn into a really, really good football team down in Atlanta.
Absolutely. All right, now this one's really interesting. Josh Allen, they have him 3 on their board. Now, the Patriots' edge situation is very weird. You have Anthony Jennings, who I think they should re-sign. I don't think he's going to crack $10 million just because he doesn't really contribute on passing downs. And even when he does, he really relies more on stunts and discipline more than actually being a good pass rusher. You got Matthew Judon, who's in the last year of his deal. And then obviously he's getting older, very valuable player, but you have to expect at some point he's going to fall off to some degree. Then you have Josh Uche, also a free agent like Anthony Jennings, but didn't have a great season last year, dealt with a foot injury, which obviously did have an impact on his ability to perform. But at the same time, with his style, because of how disciplined they are, it just felt like it was hard to really see how effective he was. He had some flashes, he likes that little hezzy bull rush, but it just wasn't the season that he had the year before where he really broke out towards the end of the year. But Josh Allen, and then also Keon White, he's kind of different from their edge rushers because usually Patriots edges just play outside. Keon White's different where he's inside and outside, had most of his success actually from the inside and kind of like a defensive end, Dietrich Wise kind of role. But Josh Allen is a legitimate difference maker. It's kind of weird because if you re-sign Jennings, then you have Judon, where does he fit exactly? But what would you think about potentially bringing him in? Because if it's on a 1-year deal, maybe you see how it works, you extend him. I'm curious because it seems, and he's still young. He's only relatively young. He's going to turn 27, but consistently good player. He's ranked, let's see, he was 11th last season, 10th the season before. One of the best guys at the position. What do you think?
I mean, they're going to either have to rework Matthew Judon's contract or try and trade him out of it because he's going to want more money, just like he did last year, restructure, and I don't really blame him, even though he's coming off the injury. So if they don't feel like doing that and they just want to start anew with somebody else, I like the idea of Josh Allen. I mean, like you said, he's a game changer. He's a difference maker. People always think of Josh Allen, the quarterback, but Josh Allen, the D end, might be, just as good. He's just a little bit overshadowed because of the position. And so I don't hate the idea. I think it would be a lot to add him to the room if you're going to go with, again, Judon and White and Jennings and, re-sign everybody and keep everyone apart. It's kind of seems redundant and feels like I wouldn't, allot my salary cap space there. But you wonder, again, new regime, new people, still defensive minded, Patriots head coaching staff and clearly front office. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't hate the idea. It was just, it kind of depends on Judon and what they want to do there.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And who was number 2 on this list?
So this is specifically the Patriots needs.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
I
got
should
it,
have
got it. Okay,
clarified
makes
that.
sense.
I just got so
No,
excited
that's
to
fine. No,
jump
you
in.
did. I didn't know if it was ranked that way. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
these are
okay.
specifically Patriots positional needs.
Got it. Okay. So, yeah, I don't hate the idea of Josh Allen, but I think it's dependent on what they do with the position right now, too.
Also, what they do with edges, whether they want to continue with the philosophy that they have or whether they maybe let somebody off the chain a little bit more, because again, so much of what they do relies on being disciplined. But with the modern age of, all these scrambling quarterbacks, it can be tough. Although Josh Allen, it's kind of funny, owns Josh Allen, the quarterback. Like anytime they play, he has like a new career game, which is pretty crazy.
It's hilarious.
Now, this one's interesting. T. Higgins. Obviously,
it's a slam dunk, Taylor. We talked about having just conversation on here, and not like this is the one. I gave a caveat, and I had to cut you off because I gave the caveat to Josh Allen, and it depends on the position room where that goes. T. Higgins, 25, unsigned, projected for a 1-year deal, or is that just what they're saying his average annual value will be?
It's a 1-year deal, and he'd make about $22 million.
Interesting. Okay. I feel like they're probably going to franchise him, but I say that you make this happen any time of day, no matter what. You have to bring T. Higgins into that room somehow, some way.
But that's the thing, and this is something that's going to come up a few times. The only reason I hesitate is because is he going to be available? Like I want to put him on this list. I wouldn't even think about it, but realistically. And I feel like it's going to come up with a lot of the wide receiver free agents outside of like Mike Evans, and he still could as well. I think a lot of these guys are going to get franchise tags, and that's the issue. I don't even think they're going to hit the open market. So, I mean, I feel like T. Higgins and most of these top receivers are going to be no-brainers, but realistically, do we think he's even going to make it out of Cincinnati?
No, he's not.
No.
I don't think so. They would be silly to not keep him there. And yeah, they do. And we talked about Trey Brown, the guy who's developed that, helped develop that team out in Cincinnati. Like, talk about their receiver room with Chase and Higgins and Tyler Boyd rather. Like, they have dudes, but it's still, like they could lean on in theory Boyd and Chase without Higgins. But you also have three top wide receivers in your room with Joe Burrow, who is coming off an injury. Like, help him out as much as you can. They obviously have a chemistry there, so they'd be silly to not to let him go. But if they do let him go, this should be their number one signing. But realistically, you're right. I don't think he's getting out of Cincinnati.
I want to put him on this list so bad, but I can't. So we have to
just do it. Put him on. He's a free agent. Put him on.
All right. All right. Free agent wish list. Just wish list.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. We'll do that. So T. Higgins. What was that contract? Let's see. That was 1 year.
21.66. Yeah.
66 million. All right. God, I'm typing like my dad. Okay, let's go. All right. Brian Burns, another interesting edge option, even younger than Josh Allen. Although that Carolina scheme, I believe are just a penetrating defense where there's not a lot of like discipline, got to keep the guy contained. I feel like they just kind of let him off and he just gets to attack. So I don't know that he'd be a great scheme fit. Obviously, uber talented player, just needs to get the hell out of Carolina so he can get to a contender. Yeah. Who knows what that's. I think the Patriots are going to turn around pretty quickly. But are you interested, just given, again, the scheme fit and how he would be integrated? And you see the overall defensive grades. He's been pretty middle of the pack to like not great. And that's because he's a great pass rusher, not as good of a run defender.
Similar to, their thing with Judon. And obviously Judon's a much better run defender. But he can rush the passer as well. But like if they decide to do something else with Judon and maybe not re-sign Jennings, then yeah, I would give Brian Burns, a bag of money to come here and rush the passer. But I would rather keep who they have in the room currently than move off of like the Josh Allen. I would be fine with them moving off from Judon and bringing in a guy like Josh Allen, where Brian Burns, like, okay, it would be good. It would help if you end up moving on, but I still would I would rather keep the room intact how it is rather than move it around just for a guy in Brian Burns.
Agreed. Okay. Michael Pittman Jr. Now, this one's a bit more interesting because obviously doesn't have the physical upside of a lot. Like even Mike Evans, he's just not quite as explosive, but he's uber reliable. They've had so many different quarterbacks play for the Colts, especially when you talk about like the different skill set or the skill level of these quarterbacks. Had Anthony Richardson for like a minute, and then he had to go the rest of the season with Gardner Minshew, who obviously has his flashes, but those flashes are also kind of weighed down by some really tough moments. Pittman Jr. is not really an X. I think you could put them in there in certain packages. He's more of a Z. Is he someone you'd want to put on the wish list? Also, probably going to get franchise tagged. Let's say that.
Probably. I'm same boat as Higgins. Like Higgins is above him on my list. I think he's a little bit younger, and I think he's a little bit better. But I would sign Michael Pittman 100% if he's available. Again, a guy who they could probably will franchise tag or make stay there because he's their best wide receiver, and they have to keep developing Anthony Richardson next season. So why take away the best pass catcher in your room? But if he does hit the market, then yeah, the Patriots need a wide receiver. So throw Pittman on the list 100%.
All right, Mike. Oh my gosh, that is all caps. All right,
because we really want Michael Pittman
so badly. All right, so
the NFL season is wrapping up, and there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Here we go. 21.66. This is where Amit come in handy. We miss you, buddy. All right.
I think he actually. I was just looking on YouTube, and he threw in a thumbnail on the thing. So Amit is awake, I think.
Oh well. Good morning, Amit. All right. Yeah. All right. Danielle Hunter. Now, I say no. He's a great pass rusher, a well-rounded player as well. But at the same time, I feel like it's a similar situation to Matthew Judon, where he's
he's
older
the same guy
up there. Yeah. So we're just no, quick no.
Yeah, skip him.
Yeah.
Should we add Josh Allen to the list? Like, should Allen be on our list, or are we just gonna?
I think. Yeah. Why not? Yeah.
We can throw him on. Yeah, throw him on.
Yep. Josh Allen. Oh, I should do positions because this could get confusing. Wide receiver. The beauty of live streams. All right, 1 year.
Better this way.
21.92 million. All right. Oh my God, I got my screens mixed up. All right. Now, Mike Evans. Mike Evans balled out yesterday.
Yep.
Obviously, he had a couple easy drops, but at the same time, he had a way more big-time catches and big moments, dominated at the end of the first half. 3 years, $23 million. Now, he has nagging soft tissue injuries and has like forever. So that is something to consider. Also, age is a consideration. But at the same time, I think one of the things you need to get in this wide receiver room is a veteran with championship experience who everybody can look up to and be like, you are the standard. So do we want to put Mike Evans on the list? Because I'm all for it, but I also understand there are legitimate concerns as well.
I think you have to put every wide receiver who's available on the list. And not everyone, but like – these top three guys, like if you land any of them, then I'm all for it. Like a guy who you mentioned reliable, a guy who he's never not had 1,000-yard season in the NFL. He's won a Super Bowl. He has playoff experience. Like, sure, soft tissue injury is obviously a problem, but he's better than anybody you have in your room right now, and he'll be better than anybody you have in your room next year. And so, yes, I would rather, Higgins is number 1, Pittman's number 2, Evans is number 3, but I put Mike Evans on the list for sure. And so now I'm looking at the way we were.
Do we want to move this around a little bit?
No. I'm just thinking more so like what Brad is kind of putting for like the projected contracts. The 1 year deal guys are definitely franchise tag guys, right?
I would think so.
Because like Evans is getting 3 years, but you would think Higgins would get a 5-year deal on the market, but I think he's projecting them to be franchise tags. So that
I think it's also kind of workshopping like he dealt with injuries too. Yeah. He was kind of like he missed some games, so I think that's also in consideration. But with Michael Pittman, I think the assumption is that they're probably going to get tagged. I think that's a tag.
It's the same number. It's the tag number. Yeah. Okay. But so add Evans all day.
Yep, he's there. Tyron Smith, is he even going to make it out of Dallas? He's an old head, but he's still a beast, though. I
know.
And Trent Brown's also an old head, so it's like, do you want a guy with, again, playoff experience, highly respected, and also is probably going to play for you at a high level? Also a guy who dealt with injuries, but again, so has Trent Brown. So I feel like when it comes to how you're going to restock at left tackle, the options are really like Tyron Smith, Trent Brown, and Jonah Williams. Jonah Williams was a right tackle last season. So do we want to put Tyron Smith on there, or are we saying, we might be able to do better?
I wish somebody asked Mayo about Trent Brown this morning on the Greg Hill show. That would have been a good question.
Yeah, that would have been a good. I just want to know how they feel about him inside the locker room. Because like we've had Sophie, and like she mentioned that a lot of things haven't really gone his way, and they kind of mess with his head and things like that.
Right.
But then there's also the side of like, well, there have also been reports that people in the locker room weren't happy with this effort. So it's like, if they play well, if he plays well, no one's gonna care. Like at the end of the
Exactly.
day, if you play well, people are gonna forget a lot of things. But how far gone is that situation?
Yeah, and that being said, for the same amount of money, I'd probably take Tyron Smith, to be honest.
Yeah.
New
Okay.
blood, not dealing with the potential headache that Trent can bring. And again, it's all, reported and rumored, so I don't know, exactly what's going on there. But yeah, if you can get Tyron Smith in here for, again, a 1-year deal, 10 mil, like yes, 100%. Because
That's good.
it helps. You're not tying yourself to a almost 34-year-old, tackle. You bring him in for a year.
Mm-hmm.
You shore up the O-line, and then, next year you draft, or, you draft this year and you develop. And yeah, I think that would be a solid left tackle to help out a rookie for their first season.
Yep, agreed. All right, and I feel like as this goes, he's probably going to keep getting bumped down the list, just in terms of priority and all those things. But I mean, look at those grades. That's crazy. I mean, obviously, 2022 wasn't very good. I think he battled injuries even more then.
Yeah.
Marquise Brown. How do you feel about him? Honestly, I am not interested.
Not huge on him. I think.
Right.
No, I think he's dealt with injury. I'm pass on him. I want like one of these big name receivers, and if not, I'd rather draft one. So,
yeah, Bryce Huff.
You've been talking about Bryce Huff for months.
Yes, like ever since Josh Uche's play started to decline, I was like, but Bryce Huff's been killing it. He did well against the Pats. I really like him as an option to replace Uche. Now, he's a situational guy. But at the same time, so is Uche. Like I think Uche had more flashes against the run than he has in years past. But at the same time, he also would just completely like go inside, and there was nobody coming over the top and giving up big runs. So personally, I would like to see Bryce Huff instead. But they've also developed Uche. I think Uche clearly has a relationship with Gerard Mayo, and I think that they do like him in the building. And in terms of locker room presence, he seems fantastic. It's really just like, all right.
And he was there. He was at Mayo's press conference. Like that tells you something too.
Yeah, but how do you feel? I want to put Bryce Huff on here. I'd probably put him over Josh Allen, to be honest with you.
What?
Especially with the value. With the value? Yeah. Age value?
Yeah. So
and
if we're doing
considering that
this
Josh Allen
order,
probably isn't playing every down. That's the thing.
We
Unless
should
they move
also
on from Judon.
I think we should also bump Josh Allen under Michael Pittman, if we're being honest.
Okay, that's fair.
So let's go Higgins, Huff, Pittman, Allen.
I like that. Oh, what the heck? All right.
Yeah, there we go.
Bryce Huff.
Because Huff, you're right. You're not shelling out all that money for Josh Allen here. You have Huff for this 3-year deal, which
And in terms of situational pass rushers, you don't get a lot better than Bryce Huff. And also, his grades are pretty good. He doesn't play against the run a lot, but he clearly isn't doing all that bad. I need to watch more. Most of the tape that I've seen from him, to be totally honest, is him rushing the passer. But he's very, very good at it. I would love to see him on the team. I think that gives your pass rush a huge amount of juice, which would be very valuable because you don't know what's going to happen with Keon White. Again, I think he may be better as an interior rusher. And then you're kind of left with, Matt Judon sometimes. And then it's pretty shallow there. So Bryce Huff, we got Trent Brown. 2 years. It's so cheap.
Should we put him on the list? I think we got to put him on the list.
Under Tyron Smith.
Yeah.
Just because of the off-field stuff.
You need to screen grab this and put it on Twitter after and watch the world burn. Okay.
You do it. You're more used to that than I am, Mr. SpongeBob meme.
That's fair.
All right, yeah, but I think we already talked about Trent Brown. Obviously, still an outstanding player when he's healthy, but there's the injury to consider. Although he did play all of 2022, he lost like 10 pounds when he had the flu and still managed to play. Right. He showed even last season that he played through a concussion, which is not advisable. I do not think that's okay, but he did it. Yeah, you can call him a lazy bum if you want, but still, when it comes to like at times looking for the team over himself, I think he's shown that he will do it. It's inconsistent. I will say that. And again, if there are people inside the locker room saying that they had an issue with his effort, that is what it is. Whether or not he thinks it's fair or not, how he was treated, that's the case. But I think you have to at least have him as a consideration. Again, because it's 2 years, less than $8 million a year for a very good left tackle. You just don't get those, especially for a guy who's well-rounded and can dominate in the run game.
Yep. Calvin Ridley.
I think so he's not a franchise tag projection. I honestly,
It's a lot of money.
I don't know. It is a lot, especially he's 29 years old. He has a drop problem, and I know you could say like drops aren't that important, but like drops in big moments are. It's kind of like that Tyreek Hill thing where you can produce a lot, and drops don't matter if you're a good player, but if you're dropping plays like touchdowns and things like that, they're literally game-changing plays. I don't know. I personally am not that interested in Kelvin Ridley, to be honest. Very talented. I'm not going to act like he's not, but stay with Trevor Lawrence. Continue to develop. I'm not that.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm with you. So let's move on and let's grab Big Mike Onwenu right there and put him right under.
Yep, where we put him? We already know
right under T. Higgins.
Under T. Higgins. All right. Yep.
What do you
that's
think?
Totally fair. I would only. I think I'd put him over T. Higgins, to be totally honest with you, especially because of what he already gives you in the locker room. You know.
Yeah, you're right. He should be. He should be. He should be top priority this offseason. He really should be.
I'm just gonna call him an O-line because so again, there is already precedent for the kind of contract they could give him where Elton Jenkins for the Packers, I should put average, shouldn't I? Yeah, I'll do that for the other ones. But Elton Jenkins, his contract is structured where if he is, if he plays offensive tackle, he gets paid like an offensive tackle. Mm-hmm. If he plays guard, he gets paid like a guard. And obviously there's like all pro incentives and things like that. I think that's what you want for Big Mike because frankly, I think he is best suited as a guard still. Can he play tackle? Yes, but I would love to see them maybe either sign a couple tackles outside of Onwenu or draft one, sign one, and let him play his best position. I also know that there's been some talk about him not fitting if it's like a McVay scheme. But one thing about McVay's scheme is he's been flexible. They've run a lot of duo, which is what the Patriots ran almost exclusively. And I think outside zone, I don't think he's great because you don't want him trying to like get across the face of people very often. But I think if you talk about mid zone where you're really trying to hit inside, which is really what the Patriots run, I think that could still work. So I don't really think that he's as scheme restricted as some people do think. Also, like you'd have to completely outside of Cole Strange, who's hurt, you'd have to pretty significantly overhaul your personnel and just kind of start from scratch with people that haven't been in the building, which I don't know that I'm a huge fan of, especially because Mike Onwenu has been so influential and has emerged as a leader this season. Is so homegrown talent. I think it sets a good example that, yes, this regime will pay people who bust their butts and really play hard for us. But what do you think?
I echo everything you just said about Big Mike. I think it's the Jeremy Fowler report last week that said that the Patriots know he's as good as gone. Like that, that irked me. Like again, homegrown,
especially because Sophie Weller said the opposite, while asking him directly, which is kind of weird.
And so you wonder what side. Obviously, that's probably coming from the team side from Fowler, but like bring him back. He's worth it. Like people say the versatility. Not that it's a negative, but almost like you don't have a place for him. But it's like no, like you pay him at. Again, that's the thing I wonder is where, okay, is the same thing going to happen where you say you're going to play me a guard, then you play me a tackle, so you pay me as a guard, and then I have to move, and that the whole thing where the Elton Jenkins thing is perfect. Like, and now granted, everyone will be like, no, I play tackle, you pay me like a tackle, but I still think that's worth it. Like, then you just have like someone who you can put everywhere, and then you work with it. So long story short, Onwenu was number one on my list. He should be their top priority this offseason.
I agree. Looks like, all right, we may have to cut this we'll try to get to 30 before my battery dies. Okay. All right. So Chase Young.
Yeah, we'll do out a top 10 here. We'll put out a top 10 and then we'll bounce. All right.
Perfect. So Chase Young, he's interesting because he's more defensive. And this is also kind of the case for Bryce Huff, to be fair. They're more defensive end than outside linebacker, which is what the Patriots usually like. They're obviously, scheme versatile, but you very rarely see them line up like true defensive ends outside. But he's young. He's talented. He's doing well. He's been playing pretty well this entire season. Obviously, the injuries are a concern. But
yeah, I didn't notice him that. I didn't really notice him that much in the game the other day. Like he didn't make that.
I thought I saw him flash a few times, but definitely not. It wasn't a game changer.
Yeah, and that could just be not really a scheme thing, but playing second to it's tough with Nick Bosa and what have you. But
and the Pats also reportedly had interest at the trade deadline. We also should note that. So it's not like they wouldn't even consider it. There's some level of interest in him. Would you put him on the list though for the top 10?
Yeah, you put him on the list again because it makes sense, right? I mean, you see, we're talking here with the whole Judon situation with his contract. You bring in a young guy, you're trying to rebuild, you sign him to a longer deal. I think I'm looking at. I want to put him on the list. I'm trying to think of where I want to put him on the list, and
I'm thinking like between Tyron and Trent.
Yeah.
Because it's only a year. He's 25 years old, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I say go after Tyron Smith, because as much as I want Chase Young, and I think he's a better, obviously better player and younger than Tyron Smith, having a left tackle next season is a lot more important than having, Chase Young.
Yep, agreed. All right. And that's also assuming that he would probably replace Josh Uche.
Yeah.
And be more of a situational guy. Jonathan Grenard. Now, he's interesting because he's a young guy who didn't get a lot of attention because the Texans weren't playing well, but he's been very good for them. Another guy who's young, obviously would fit because he comes from the Nick Caserio system. What do you think about him? Would you want to maybe round out the list with him?
Who's after Clowney? I want to see what we have.
Clowney, we've got Darius Smith, Mekhi Becton, Uche.
Ooh.
And then let's just get to the top 50. Then Leonard Floyd and I want Jonah Williams.
All right, we're going to put Jonah Williams is going to be our last guy. And I think
okay. All right. I would put him.
I was going to say, I think even though he played right tackle this year, I still put him over a guy like Tyron Smith. And should we put him at 5 under Michael Pittman?
I'm thinking so, yeah. Yeah, I think so. Because I also know he's very respected and played really hard for the Bengals. Yeah. I think he's a guy that they would want back. Clearly, with that contract, I think he earned himself a decent amount of money. So,
yeah,
I think that'd be pretty good. All right. So, would we maybe want to move somebody? Would we want to put Grenard in for somebody else who's already on the list before we close it?
I'm just trying to look at.
I might bump Chase Young, to be totally honest with you.
You'd rather Grenard?
Maybe, yeah. Because we know he's a scheme fit. He's young, up and comer. That's not the 15 million. That's not terrible money. And he's a guy that could play every down for you, where if he develops well, he could be your Matt Judon replacement. That's just my take, though.
Yeah, I look at Chase Young, and again, maybe I'm putting too much value in the fact that he was the number 2 overall pick and that he has such a high upside. Versus Grenard's, again, the scheme fit, and he obviously played well. I like Chase Young being younger, though, too, and a guy who, you could build your core around potentially. Oh, man. You make the decision. This one's on you.
I'm bumping Chase Young.
All right, sounds good. There's our top 10.
Grenard. 3 years. 15.75 million. All right, there it is. And once again, this is based on our buddy Brad Spielberger, one of the best and brightest at PFF, his list with the top 50 players at positions of need for the Patriots. So Kyle Duggar, I'm not even sure how obviously was not on the list. It's because they don't really need a safety badly.
Yeah, right.
Obviously, I think they could use a post safety, and if Duggar leaves, things could change.
Yep.
But they could re-sign Jalen Mills. They've still got Marte Mapu. They could live without Kyle Duggar, who also I know Brad projects will be someone who gets the franchise tag, which would make a lot of sense because he had kind of a down year. See if you want to pay him. He's also on the older side. Maybe let him test the market, see what happens there. But this is our list. Learn it, love it, digest it.
We'll tweet it out. I'll tweet it out. So
there we go.
You might be looking for wholesome, convenient meals for jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help you fuel up fast with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. Head to factormeals.com/PressPass50 and use code PressPass50 to get 50% off. That's code PressPass50 at factormeals.com/PressPass50 to get 50% off.